2020 was definitely not a regular normal year. It was, whatchamacallit? I don't know. What's poppin', y'all? Jerry here. Every year, Oxford University Press, which publishes the Oxford English Dictionary, announces an Oxford English Dictionary's UK and US Word of the Year. Sometimes they're the same word. 在一般的年份，他们会根据一个英语单词被大众使用频率的变化，评出那一年使用量激增的年度词汇。But for the first time, the Oxford English Dictionary has chosen not to name a word of the year. Describing 2020 as a year which cannot be neatly accommodated in one single word, there has been too many words of the year to name just one. So they came up with 12. I think it's a great way to memorize such an extraordinary year. So today, I'll walk you through this list and look back at some of the most memorable moments of the English-speaking world in 2020. For January, two words reached their peak frequency of usage: bushfire and impeachment. 其实我个人还会加上 Kobe Bryant。Bushfire 就是野火、森林或者丛林大火。One of the defining climatic events of the end of 2019 and beginning of 2020 was the Australian bushfire season, the worst on record. Bushfire has many names: wildfire, wildland fire, or rural fire, depending on who you ask. Australians call it bushfire. 5年以前的12月，我在澳大利亚东岸旅行了1个月，也见识到了好几次的野火。我还专门跑到野火烧过的地方瞧了瞧，确实破坏性极强。但那时候我看到的，明显都无法和去年年初的那一场野火相提并论。I was genuinely worried about them koala bears and kangaroos, and above all, the nature-loving Aussies. If you think you haven't seen a sign of climate change at this point, you should go get your eyes checked. Then it comes the impeachment. Unfortunately, impeachment has nothing to do with peaches, which would have been a lot more fun. It refers to a democratic process which helps the Congress to get rid of a president that they don't like. Impeachment 就是弹劾的意思。Donald Trump at this point has become the disliked president. Acquittal 宣判无罪。2月份的热词就是川大爷被宣判无罪。Looking back, I would even consider this the calm before the storm. Enter coronavirus. By March 2020, it was one of the most frequently used nouns in the English language. 我还记得病毒刚刚在新闻里出现的时候啊，叫 novel coronavirus. 那会儿我还以为这病毒跟 Corona beer 那个啤酒有关系呢。COVID-19. This is a completely new word this year. First recorded in a report by the World Health Organization as an abbreviation of corona, virus, disease, 2019. It quickly overtook coronavirus in frequency. With COVID-19 comes the lockdown, which is the preferred term in most Anglophone countries, including the United Kingdom, Canada, and Australia, for government-enforced quarantine measures in response to the spread of COVID-19. Lockdown 原意是把犯人关入牢房的动作。用在这儿其实挺形象。我最喜欢热闹，所以选择住在多伦多最繁华的金融区。Lockdown 那会儿啊，大白天的大街上一个人都没有，还真挺瘆人。The next phrase on our list is social distancing. It surged in frequency as governments across the world introduced measures to reduce the spread of COVID-19. Social distancing 也可以叫 physical distancing， 翻译成中文就是离我远点。那会儿啊，我是看着谁都觉得是病人，摸着哪儿都觉得摸了一手病毒。原本互相很客气和睦的邻居，也都变得互相提防着。Man, this virus has completely changed how we interact with one another. 这么大半年缺少和人类面对面交流的经验啊，我觉得我现在话都说不利索了。Towards the northern hemisphere summer, more hopeful words increased in frequency, including reopening. 人总得吃饭，老不开张谁也受不了。所以5月份的主题是 reopening. People went back to work for a little bit. Our studio had a couple of months of in-person operation as well, before we resorted to working remotely again. Just when you started to think that nothing is gonna top coronavirus for 2020, BLM came along. As protesters against law enforcement agencies over the killing of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and other Black Americans took over the media, the English-speaking world firmly remembered 3 words in June 2020: Black Lives Matter. A couple of months later, the phrase Biden's laptop matter surfaced, giving new meaning to the abbreviation BLM. which is another interesting story to mention. In July, we saw a rise in usage of the phrase cancel culture. 取消文化. It's actually a boycott involving an individual who is deemed to have had problematic behavior or who has said something questionable or controversial. 这实际上是一种针对某一个被认为行为有问题或者说了一些有争议话的人的抵制。我觉得翻译为中文语境里的封杀非常贴切。在现在的网络环境下，一个演员3年前说了点有争议的话，现在你也可以翻出来抵制了。一个学者公开了几句不中听的学术研究成果 ，cancel this person。这种在网络世界里进行的因言获罪，在7月进入了英语世界人们讨论的中心。Next up on this list, BIPOC. The acronym BIPOC referring to Black, Indigenous, and people of color. Basically, anybody who's not white. It first appeared around 2013, but June 2020, it had become more prevalent on the internet as racial justice awareness grew in the US in the wake of the killing of George Floyd. 要注意 indigenous 原住民这个词，在今天的北美中文语境当中的那个印第安人 Indians 是政治上极其不正确的。目前比较正确的称呼是 indigenous or aboriginal people。咱可别因为称呼上的问题无心的冒犯了人家。大家如果有兴趣的话，回头我可以做一集节目，专门讲讲在北美咱都应该如何礼貌不冒犯的称呼各个人种。不过话说黑人、原住民都有了，那亚洲人在哪儿呢？在 BIPOC 里面，原来我们只能算 people of color。凭什么人口这么多的亚洲人连个字母都没混上啊？我怎么觉得我在这个政治正确的人特别喜欢用的词儿里受到歧视了？这我得找谁说理去啊？下一个单词是 mail in， 邮寄进来的，在这是指邮寄选票的意思啊。In August, a big political focus has been the U.S. Postal Service as the means of casting votes in these troubled times. 事实证明，在后来的大选过程中邮寄选票确实掀起了一场风波。随着美国的选票之争，另一个热词进入视野 Belarusian. The August re-election of Alexander Lukashenko in Belarus and the protests following the re-election has successfully shifted the world's attention away from COVID-19. Moonshot, 不知道是不是可以翻译为对着月亮来一枪 Originally meant long shot, 就是成功概率不大的尝试 It's increasingly being used to describe a monumental effort and lofty goal. In other words, a giant leap. 这个词在9月份会变热，是因为 Operation Moonshot, which is a UK government program to introduce same-day mass testing for COVID-19 in England as a way of enabling large gatherings of people to take place in that country while maintaining control over the virus. 来到10月份 ，super spreader 这个词进入视野。这个词的热度是被当月的白宫传染事件带起来的。作为2020的最后一个热词 Net zero comes from the historic pledge made by Chinese president that China will be carbon neutral by 2060. 碳排放是人类在发展过程中不得不共同面对的一个话题。作为全球增速最快的主要经济体，中国郑重的零排放承诺对于人类应对气候变化至关重要。Let's hope it's not too late for us to save the planet now. Wow! What a year. Going through this list was like reliving a lot of the moments of 2020. I'm pretty sure some of these words brought back memories for you as well. I wonder where you were when these words were gaining popularity. There must have been some words that meant a lot to you during this unprecedented year. Share your story with us in the comments, please. If you would like to see more contents like this, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and most importantly, keep this little bell icon lit, just so you do not miss any of our future updates. My name is Jerry. Thanks for dropping by. I'll catch you later.